right, buddy. Goal by number 7.
Breaks another one. He's got room down the sideline. There it goes. Lockett. He's not a doctor, but he's making a house call.
Welcome to episode 3 of the Deer Park Sports Network podcast. My name is Becca Wolfe, joined here with Shane Coleman and JC Wolfe. This is 2 weeks overdue. We took the Saturday after the big homecoming win off because student council was setting up for the homecoming dance. And then last week I ended up really sick. I'm sure JC and Shane will have nightmares of that night for years to come. So we will be recapping roughly 3 weeks of action. So bear with us. This is going to be a little bit longer of a podcast. We will try to keep the side rants to a minimum, unlike episode 2, where volleyball had like 30 minutes of the thing. I will take all of the credit or blame for that as well. So to kick us off, we're going to start with men's soccer hand it over to JC to give us a recap of the past 3 weeks for our men's soccer team.
Well, thank you for passing the kickoff. Very punny of you. But, I mean, instead of just breaking down, I think it was like 6 games in between each podcast. I'm not going to just look at every individual game, mainly because some of them are on the road and I didn't see them anyway, so I can't really speak about it. Just going to tell you some stuff that in the games that we have seen, some of the highlights I've liked, call out some players for doing a great job, and get going there. Right now they stand 6-8 overall, 1-4 in league play. As in the last podcast, that league win was historic, so good job there. Probably the major win in the time we've been gone was the big senior night win over Mount Healthy, which produced probably the clip of the season. It was a celebration fail between Robbie Fisher and Levi Troxel. The goal by itself was actually clip-worthy, but because we catch celebrations here, Shane did a good job of getting this full celebration. We got a clip out of that, and I've seen it everywhere. It is everywhere. I can't stop seeing it.
It is well talked about.
I don't think I've actually listened to the sound of my voice so many times, just telling Levi, "We got you, buddy." But some stuff to call out. I think Colin has done a great job. He's kind of the Swiss Army knife of the team right now. He'll play center back. He'll play outside back. He's played. I think it's an outside wing back. The wallets are involved. It's weird formations everywhere. The combo of Robbie and Anthony have been really good in goal, in my opinion. Some of the score lines won't say so if you just look at the stats, but there's 15 to 16 saves on top of giving up 4 to 5 goals, which realistically is really good. Big returns to the lineup. We got seniors Jack Walker and Logan Murphy back, which that just adds depth. Is that the right word? Depth? Mm-hmm. I felt like I said it weird the first time. Yeah, just being able to swap out more bodies is crucial, especially in soccer. As you know, there's running everywhere. And going forward, it seems like it's either Johnny when he's available or Adriel. They call him Addy, so I called him Addy in this. But he's almost sometimes too fast for his own good. He will overrun the ball quite a bit, but he's always a threat. And they're going to be leaning on him heavy for the next 2 games with Johnny out.
Alrighty, so with that, I am going to talk just briefly on volleyball. I'm going to kind of
She
do...
struggles with that, by the way, people.
Again, I'm going to do like JC said, it's been 12 games in the last 3 weeks for volleyball because you, on average, are doing, 3 weeks a game. For our Wildcats, it's typically a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday split. Aside from, we did have a Saturday game, and the Wildcats actually got their first win of the season against Purcell. Very close games. They battled all the way through, and then they went on a little bit of a win streak there. A close win all the way out at New Miami for a non-conference win, and then for the first conference win of the season, they took 4 sets against Finneytown, and then they also won a 5-set thriller this past Monday. I will apologize for not having a stream for that. I was still getting over, being sick. So we did not have a stream for them. But looking at the stats, freshman Abby Pettyjohn is still sitting second in blocks for the CHL, which, looking at the conference, when you're facing teams like Wyoming, when all of their roster is over 6 foot, you've got Taylor typically is pretty tall as well. So, and this is really only Abby's second year of volleyball. So the fact that she's got the timing down to be second in the CHL in blocks is huge. It's, showing what's coming for the Wildcats. Sophomore Reagan Osborne has, been killing it in the back line. She was up for Enquirer's Small School Player of the Week for her 17-dig performance against Finneytown. She currently sits 4th in the CHL in pass points, and then right outside the top 5 in digs. She's got 174 digs on the season. Little shout out to senior Sydney Lawson for Wyoming for hitting 1,000 career digs. So coming from a libero myself, getting 1,000 career digs, that is 4 years of just being, solid in the back line, and for a school like Wyoming to even get on the court as a freshman. So shout out to her. I think Reagan may have a shot of that, which she would be the first one in Deer Park to get that many digs. And then another, kind of silent, leader for the Wildcats is also freshman Grace Louden. We saw that she had a couple rough games with, some double touches, and then she, was very, very solid in the win. She is currently sitting right outside the top 5 in the CHL, which again, coming from, she's a freshman. She has played, this is mainly her 3rd year, and, she is absolutely doing a fantastic job, leading this offense for the Wildcats. So I am going to hand it off. We are going to go to the other soccer team, and I'm going to give it back to JC to give us kind of let us know what's been happening in the world of our women's soccer. We did have a record get broken in our time, and I know JC will touch on that.
Yeah, stop trying to steal my thunder all the time. And Shane, you just sit there and be pretty. We'll get to you in a second.
You're next.
All right, so just pretty much you're going to get the same kind of spiel from me that you got from the boys soccer. They're 4-9 overall. They haven't been able to win a CHL game yet. Keyword yet. It's coming. As Becca stole, Brad did become the girls' all-time coaching wins leader.
Yes.
No whoopsie doodles this time, guys. We're gonna try not to drop anything that no one wants to drop. And my apologies if I did drop anything that wasn't supposed to. But I mean, some highlights. I think Sarah Hyob and Kylan Little have been fantastic defensively. I think they both could get first team nods, but I don't think they both will. I think Sarah will. Kylan will be more of that like second team honorable mention area. But Brad, if you listen to this, push for them both to be first team. They have been fantastic. Watson, she's got so many records here. You know she's going to perform very well. Pretty much averaging probably over 10 saves a game. But the only real concern with the girls has been we need something going forward. I was like, well, what was happening when we were winning that's not happening now? That deadly combo, the freshman-senior combo with Walker and Hegland, that's almost washed out, gone. Now, that is CHL competition is hard, and for a freshman to try to operate, I'm not trying to put her down at all. I'm just saying that's kind of what we need to, one, get through these last couple games and try to be competitive in the playoffs. Anything else? I'll touch on this more when we talk about the upcoming, but I believe that goal record will fall here soon.
Alrighty, so a little, cliffhanger to come. So we're going to end this recap portion with Shane talking about football, a couple big wins. He's going to definitely touch on. Those of you, obviously you can't see it. He's got a whole page of stuff he's going to chit-chat on. Both of them did.
Oh, I've got 2 pages.
Oh, he's got 2 pages.
That's why we call you pretty boy around here.
All right, so Shane, take it away and talk about our football team. We're in the heart of CHL play now, so go ahead, Shane.
All right, thanks, Becca. I got 3 games to talk about, obviously. First up is September 16th when we played Taylor back on homecoming. I think we even talked about this during the game. That was one of the more exciting games we've ever gotten to call. Big 34-27 win. Started off kind of boring, honestly. No scoring until late in the second quarter when Parsons hit Connor Bain for a touchdown with a jump ball. That was Bain's first catch and touchdown of the season at that point. Then things kind of got crazy in the third quarter. We had 40 combined points in quarter number 3. So we went from nobody scoring until like 2 minutes to go in the second to everyone scoring in the third. Taylor took 2 real quick touchdowns to start off the third quarter, and then our special teams got real hot real quick. We took back a touchdown with Brody Armour, and then they went down the field and scored again. And then the ensuing kickoff, Brandon Anderson took one back 99 yards for a touchdown. And one of those where I think, JC, you would agree, it was one of those plays that could have gone really, really bad because he kind of let the ball roll and then it stopped rolling at the 1 yard line, so he had to pick it up. And then he just kind of weaved in and out of people, and then there he went. And my voice almost did not take that one. And I apologize to anyone that thought that was incredibly annoying, but I was excited. And then Kendall Luckett had a huge day that game. He had 20 carries for 226 yards. He had 2 big touchdowns that pretty much sealed the game in the fourth. Let's see, Parsons only threw 2 passes. He completed the one to Bain for a touchdown. Brody Armour had 2 kick returns. He had the touchdown of 65 yards. Also had a punt return he came very close to breaking.
After he muffed it too.
Yeah, it was a weird game. It was one of those, how many things that should have gone wrong, but they bounced Deer Park's way.
Hey, we got some playmakers. That's all that is.
Yeah, it's one of those where the football universe was shining on us on homecoming. We were supposed to win that game. Cam Gilreath had a big day as well. 9 tackles, 2 sacks. The team as a whole had 4 sacks in that game. So very good homecoming win there. It was nice to see because my 4 years of high school, we got smoked on homecoming every year. So it was nice to be a part of a high school homecoming win. Seeing the community being excited about that and the student section and the players in general. So I was really happy for them on that. I'm going to talk briefly about last week with Wyoming. Obviously, 41-0 wasn't the best game in the world, but I mean, it's Wyoming. It is what it is. They've given up 7 points this year. I mean, that team looks primed for a run at state. For the first half, Deer Park did a pretty good job keeping running back C.J. Hester in check. I mean, he took off in the second half, but that first half, we did a pretty good job keeping him in check. And then just one little thing I'll add at the end of the game, when the JV guys were getting some playing time, freshman E.J. Gore looked really good at quarterback. So I think after Parsons is gone, since he's a junior, I think we got some pretty good future with E.J. Gore, the helm at quarterback. He showed off the athleticism a couple times, completed a pass or 2. So I think Gore's got a pretty good future with the Wildcats in the next couple of years.
Yeah, hopefully he can hit a growth spurt though.
Yeah.
Growth spurt, keep that athleticism, and then he'll be solid.
Yeah, he'll be a threat back
Yeah,
to quarterback.
EJ Gore is a name that we are going to hear quite a bit this year, not just in football. I was at a lot of junior high basketball games last year, and he is also a really good basketball player. So just, an overall very athletic kid that we are excited for here at Deer Park.
Yeah, so that's a name to look for in the next couple of years. And then last night, another big flair for the dramatic win for Deer Park. The Warriors took a real quick 10-0 lead. Then Deer Park answers back with 20 of their own to go up 20-10 at halftime, with Kendall Luckett being dominant on the ground as always in that first half. I mean, Jay Sean Denson got his first rushing touchdown of the year, made it 26-10 at the end of the third. In the third, rather. It wasn't at the end of the third. Then Marymount tried to make a comeback, made it 26-23. Then the Wildcats go down there and they cause everyone in Deer Park to have a heart attack. And we go have a fumble at about the half-yard line that gets recovered by Deer Park to seal the win. I believe that was Isaiah Alford we determined was the one that forced that fumble. And the little bit of the game I got to watch before coming in here, Isaiah Alford played one heck of a game on defense last night. So stats for the year, we got the Wildcats are currently sitting at 3-4 and 2-2 in the CHL, which until they put in the stats from Reading's game, that has them tied for third. Reading will probably jump us since they beat Finneytown last night, but they haven't updated it. And yeah, I'll get into Friday night, senior night, when we get to the upcoming schedule.
Which that is actually a perfect segue because Shane's actually we're going to go backwards order. Shane's going to kick us off in this preview part. So each one of us is going to preview, let's just go ahead and kind of do like the rest of the season type thing. We are going to be having the meeting soon for the postseason in terms of the 2 soccer teams and volleyball. Obviously for football, it's based off of the Harbison rankings. Last time they were released, we were at 13. So we most likely will be on the road, obviously. We'll see those get released like Tuesday morning. We'll see, Marymount is in a higher division, so that did, really, really help our chances at the playoffs. So I will hand it back over to Shane to go ahead and preview what's to come.
Becca, you are on fire with these sports puns today. All right,
There was
so
a sports pun there. I
yeah,
completely missed it.
Handoff.
football.
Oh, well done.
All right, so as I was stating about 2 minutes ago, we have senior night coming up this Friday night. We got Madeira. Last year we beat Madeira in what was an absolute shootout of a game. I think we scored about 50 and they scored upper 40s on us. I don't remember the exact score of that game. Madeira has got a very good team this year. They are 7-0, currently 4-0 in the CHL. They have not played Wyoming yet, so that may go to one loss in the CHL, but you never know. They dominated Indian Hill last night, 48-14. And they're kind of on the same ilk as Wyoming in terms of defense. They're outscoring opponents 234-48 this season. Their rushing game has been very impressive as well. They ran for 340 yards alone last night. They've got some serious weapons over at Madeira. They have quarterback Peter Breidenbach is number 3 in the CHL in passing yards with 873, and that'll probably go up, seeing as how they haven't updated their stats from last night yet. Running back Nick Heiser is number 2 in the CHL in rushing yards with 790. I mean, Kendall Luckett's number 3 right behind him, so we got 2 good running backs again. Wide receiver Max Outry is number 2 in the CHL in receiving yards with 420, and he's also number 1 in interceptions with 2. And they have defensive lineman Grant Edgington is tied for 3rd in sacks with 4. So the Wildcats are going to have some stuff to contend with on both sides of the ball. So my keys to that game, the Wildcats are going to need to control the pace with the running game. You don't want to let Breidenbach and Heiser get going. So if you can just control the tempo, that'll do wonders for you. And defense, you're going to need to get after Breidenbach. You don't want to let him get too comfortable back there. I mean, we did a nice job of that with Taylor's quarterback, who's still, I believe, leading the conference in passing yards. We did a nice job making him uncomfortable. So if we can get after Breidenbach, that'll be great. We're also going to need to contain Heiser. Can't let him get any big gaps opened up so he can get going and get into the secondary and make guys miss. And another big thing, cut down the penalties. You cannot win games if you're giving away free yards. So we've got to clean things up. Don't give away big plays, all that kind of stuff. I mean, this is a big game. If you can get a big win against Madeira, it's going to be a big boost to your confidence. It's going to help you when it comes time for the playoffs. I think we've discussed this. We are, since this game is going to be on Star 64 on next Saturday afternoon, we are still going to cover the game. However, we are going to be doing it from the field level. So JC and I will be on location on the field. So if we get run over, you'll probably hear it. All right, I think we're going to touch a little bit on the rest of the season. So after Madeira, we're on the road for the last 2 against Indian Hill, which their head coach was my head coach at Roger Bacon my junior year, so I know a lot about him. I'll leave it at that. And the final game of the regular season is going to be at Finneytown. So some winnable games coming up, also some games that could be a little tougher. So it all comes down to the effort we're going to get and what kind of bounces we're going to get this season. The Wildcats stand a very good chance at going into the playoffs looking red hot. So it'll be nice if we can keep the effort and the momentum that we've got going right now, going 2-1 in our last 3 games. Keep that momentum rolling. You never know. Good things can happen when you get to the late season and into the postseason.
Yes, as Shane was, touched on, DPSN will be moving to on-field. I think JC and I determined they are going to be right under the scoreboard, set up a little bit off.
Somewhere.
So for those of you that will tune in to the stream itself, it's not going to be about the camera work in that game since we don't have that, above the field view like we normally have. So those of you that are consistent watchers, think almost like when we traveled to Taylor last year and Jamie and I covered that game on DPSN. We went to the back of the end zone for that away game. So it's going to look something like that, but, I am confident that Shane and JC will be able to, describe the game and, make it worth, at least listening to. As always, I will be on the sideline doing some updates for those of you that would just prefer to kind of see what the score is, that kind of a thing. So I am going to kick it back over to JC, who is going to give us kind of a look at what's upcoming for our women's soccer team.
Mom, come pick me up. I've had enough of these sports puns. Oh man, but girls to come. We're getting towards the end of the season here. I thought we were only like previewing the week to come. Overachiever, pretty boy over here. I don't know why I'm calling you pretty boy today. If that bothers you, I apologize.
Because most women in Cincinnati would not agree with that.
I'm just gonna leave that alone. We're not gonna go into that.
Self-deprecating humor.
But so yeah, if that bothers you, I apologize. We only got one game in this coming week, and it's home against Indian Hill. That will be live on DPSN with Shane and myself on the call. Becca will be running around doing something weird. That's just what she does. Indian Hill is a really good team. They're 7-4-1 overall, 3-2 in the league. So it won't be easy. Hosting them makes it a little bit easier. If you had to go to Indian Hill, it would not be fun. Indian Hill was the one team in my career I don't think I ever beat. I didn't beat Wyoming either. Yeah, I think just those two. They just always have our number. I don't get it, but the keys I'm looking forward to is gonna have to lean on the usual suspects. So Kylan Little, Sarah Hyope, and Adrian Wood. Okay. Anybody that doesn't know, earlier in the year, I combined Sarah and Adrian and made them one person.
Sarah Wood.
So that's why my hesitancy was there. But yeah, it's going to be on pretty much those three to try to hold this goal scoring machine back a little bit. And then just one level up. Rachel Walker and Kylie McCormick are going to have to try to do their best to control the middle of the field because that's where all the danger is. So a lot of hard work for them to do. And also, because they're playing center midfield, they're going to have to find a link up to the CHL goal leader. Well, tied. I think she's tied now. And I think the Taylor girl took her in points. So she's a CHL leader in goals, tied for it, and then second place in points. We got to find a way to just unlock her again. And per usual, Watson will be tested. And for pretty much all her career, she usually has the answer. It's going to have to take Watson having a Watson caliber game just to keep us in it. I have nothing for the remaining game because I thought we were only covering 1 week. So I don't even know who it's against.
I know we got senior night coming up, which is Finneytown, which is the week after.
Yes.
So for those of you that don't, see the back end of scheduling, once every couple of years we change up the order of the conference opponents in the CHL. And, this year was just our year to not have like a super duper a lot of CHL home games. So normally where football senior night is the last senior night, they are actually going second. And so, men's soccer is, JC will touch on this, but
They're Dunzo and Homo. That's bad. I'm not going to say that. I'm so sorry. That was really bad Spanish attempt there. Becca, let's cut that.
Don't know like Casa.
But yeah, Dunzo at home.
Unless they get a home playoff game. Like I said, those meetings are definitely coming up. I want to say they might be next week for it. So I am going to go ahead and move it on over to volleyball.
Bump it on over.
Bump it all over, sure.
Mom. I'm gonna call her right now. Come pick me up.
But unlike, we did touch on men's soccer is done at home. Women's soccer does not have, awful lot of games. Volleyball is at home 3 of the next 4 games. On Tuesday, we've got our annual Volley for the Cause game, which will be live on DPSN. The energy will be high for that game, and those of you that tune in, I don't know what the plan is for uniforms. Normally they wear something a little bit different. I did just see that the donations will be going toward a breast cancer foundation again, so it's always a high energy game here at Deer Park. And we are taking on Marymount, which Marymount was the first game I really saw of the girls. Other than, I think it was like Taylor was our first home game here. And that Marymount game went back and forth. It's always, a hard-fought game with Marymount. If the first game was any indication, we were close then. We could have very easily taken that match. And now we have been playing a lot better than we were then. So some, freshman jitters with Grace Louden and Abby Pettyjohn are down now that we are at the tail end of the season. And then on Thursday, they are at Madeira, which Madeira is on the better end of the CHL this year. Don't know what it is with that Madeira this year. Football, they're solid. Volleyball, they're solid. They're always solid in soccer's. And then the last week of the season, they've got Indian Hill and then Finneytown for senior night. So there's a very good chance that heading into tournament play, we are looking at the volleyball team, going 2-2 in these last couple of weeks, which will be huge going into the playoffs. Volleyball will, no matter what, be at a neutral site. Depending on kind of the tournament schedule, we have not determined our coverage schedule with that. Last year, I think they were at Fairfield. I might be getting it mixed up with basketball. But OSHA inside sports are always at neutral sites right off the bat, where, soccer and football, you have a chance of getting home games for at least the couple rounds. So I'm looking for them just to continue doing, what they're doing. Unfortunately, when you play Taylor and Wyoming back to back, it's hard to keep the morale up in that case. So, bringing that energy up with the Volley for the Cause game against Marymount will be, really, really solid. And like I said, I will be on the call for DPSN. Either JC or Shane will help me out with the camera this time, because last time the screen would go black. Kind of a thing. I might, with it being Volley for the Cause, I might bring all of them. So with that, I am going to transition it to JC to give us the last team to kind of preview, the week to come, and if he wants to touch on the rest of the season. So, JC, with men's soccer.
I'm disappointed. You've been punny all day, and now you don't want to do it.
We just saved the best for last.
Yeah, everybody in the world. What I said was not meant to be that. So, my apologies. But all right, the boys to come, actually, kind of funny. They also play Indian Hill next. But they play at the place that a lot of visiting teams do not win in. And so we traveled to Indian Hill. They are 9-2 overall, 4-1 in league play. I think the only league team they lost to was Wyoming, who is pretty much one of the favorites to win state again this year. So keys to the game is going to sound a lot like the girls' key to the game, because against these good teams, you got to start in with the defense. So I'm looking at Robbie Fisher, Colin Schneeman, Anthony Stewart in goal to have they're going to have to be really great. That's a lot of pressure on these kids, so I understand it's not doable, but that will have to be the key to win. But yeah, they're just going to have to hold back, defend their behinds off, and then it's up to Julian. That's how you say
Julian.
it? Julian, my bad, buddy. Devin and Addie to try to get something going forward with, of course, again, Johnny's out. So next man up. And it was good because I got to see a little bit of how they were going to look without Johnny because the first game of his suspension we covered. And so, yeah, it was a lot of those three trying to make something happen. And Addie's got the pace to do it. Indian Hill will probably be just as fast, but he's crafty, he's shifty. A lot of pressure to put on a sophomore. But I think he's up for it. Not to pat myself on the back here, but there was a systematic change that actually came from me in talking with Coach Mike and Coach Matt. The two outside backs for the last game was Sam and Ryan. Sam was playing center midfield. I was like, well, look, he's fast. He's older. He's a junior. Put him at that outside back, and then he actually went there. And I thought he played a really good game against Mount Healthy. So, just gonna toot my own horn.
Coach JC over here.
I mean, it's no secret. I'm close to the Wally family, so we talk a lot actually. But so yeah, looking forward to seeing just how good the defense can hold up. It's gonna. There's of course no coverage anymore for the boys. So I'm gonna have to go off stats and what I hear from the coaches. But yeah, I'm gonna stick to the norm of covering 1 week at a time for next Saturday. So I don't want to spoil anything for the rest of the year. But at 6-8 right now, they're at a really good spot to get favorable position for the playoffs. Now I don't think 6-8 is good enough to host. It might be. It might be one of those where they host, but then they play the 1 seed if they win.
Yeah.
But hey, if you host a home game, we'll cover it. But that's where my boys soccer to come ends, and then next week only have to cover 1 game apiece. Looking forward to it.
All right, so we are going to go into more of a discussion type portion of the show. You know, we're just going to kind of sit here and talk. We've got, you know, kind of 3 things kind of look forward to the rest of the season that we'll touch on. But I'm going to hand it over to JC for the first question.
So Shane, I think something that's very underrated with you is your preparation for all this stuff. Kind of go into like your process of like a game day and how you prep to come and call a game.
You know, this year's been a little different because last season I didn't really have a full-time job. I just graduated college for the second time. Still, everybody's coming off of COVID at that point, so I was basically working part-time, working at a ball field, so I had a lot more time to put into this stuff. I hope my boss doesn't listen to this, but some days on my lunch break I get bored and I'll be messing with this stuff during the day. Yeah, I mean, I try. I mean, you look at like the great broadcasters. I'm not trying to say I'm one of them. Obviously, I'm not. But the guys like the Gus Johnsons and those kind of guys like that, and you kind of see like what do they do well that people enjoy, and you just try to find like how can I incorporate what they do and make it where it's authentic to who I am, so it doesn't seem forced or like really, really out there. And I just kind of take that into account when I'm doing a game. And my intros that I do, I try to make those different every time because I don't want everybody just to have the same thing every time. Like, here we are at CR Piercy Field, Deer Park's playing insert team here, and JC, what do you think? It's like I try to make it where it's something different, something unique, where everybody's going to be able to hear it and go, oh, this is this game. And just kind of like, I know, for example, with the Wyoming game, I think it was, I made a reference from WKRP in Cincinnati, which most people my age would not know what that is. It's a show from the 70s. But that was the JC and I are living on the air in Cincinnati. I mean, that was from a TV show. So, I mean, I look at it as you want to be entertaining, but at the same time, you want to be, like, factually accurate with what you're saying. You don't just want to be, like, over the top, but at the same time, you don't want to be monotone and boring. So I just look at it, I try to find that balance, I guess, if that answers your question.
I mean, it does. To anybody that knows and doesn't see, you might see him walking around the neighborhood with his binder. His preparation compared to mine is worlds different. I am probably the show up. Oh wait, I don't have anything.
Yes.
Hurry up, look around the league.
Whoopsie-doodle.
Look at the. Hey, don't steal my stuff. Whoopsie doodle is mine.
Oh, God.
But yeah, I mean, just like today, he came in with everything written down. I mean, he wrote some more stuff. I got a paper worth of stuff that wrote down when I got here. So I'm kind of like, wait till the last minute procrastinator, and he has some early prep, which is why.
Well, I'll give a shout out from when I started doing broadcasting for Waycross back in 2019, because I started out like you, JC, is like I just came in like, okay, I still got stuff to do. Oops, and then just like do it real quick. I worked with, I am blanking on his name.
Jeffrey.
No, it was no.
Michael.
It was more of an Sefwan Aldi. That was his name. Sefwan. You probably will never hear this, but you inspired me to put all this effort into my notes, because I did a couple games with him for basketball, and that dude came in with like a notebook of stuff, and he was like so enthusiastic, and he was so on top of everything. It's like he kind of like made me up my game, where it's like, okay, I don't want to look like Sefwan's doing all this stuff, and then here's Shane going, yeah, that was a great play. So it's like Sefwan inspired me to up my game. So that's why I come in with all the preparation that I do.
So while we were recording this, I actually just looked, and so we'll stay on Shane. So our offensive stats have been loaded. So Shane, if you want to touch on what you are seeing there, with a little bit of going back to the Marymount game.
He sees numbers.
I see numbers all over the place.
Like your takeaways of our offensive stats.
Well, the first thing I noticed is Jay-Sean Denson had himself a breakout game last night. 16 carries, 130 yards, and got his first touchdown of the year. And I know listening to the game, the commentators from Marymount, they were even talking about how hard it is to try and bring down somebody as big as Jay-Sean Denson. So the Metro Bus, he went off last night. I mean, Kendall Luckett, he once again had a 100-plus yard game, had 2 touchdowns. Parsons ran for 51 yards. Brandon Anderson had a touchdown. I mean, receiving, we had 1 pass and it was incomplete, so no receiving stats there. But, I mean, yeah, rushing, we do what we do.
Yeah, and the defensive stats, normally it's like Wednesday or Thursday before they get in there. So I'm actually going to open this up more as like a roundtable discussion. Coming up, we have both, in the case of JC and I, we've got tournament draws. So I want to touch on, and Shane, obviously, you can touch on the playoffs a little bit, about where we think our teams are going to hit come postseason. I know JC talked about it a little bit with boys soccer. They're kind of that middle of the road, 6 and 8. So from the coaching standpoint, and seeing the back end of what goes into those meetings, for football, the last time they had one of those meetings was the COVID year when everyone got in. But the good coaches will look at the quality of wins when they vote on the seeding. So, coming into it, with all of our teams, they're gonna look at, volleyball beat, a D1 Northwest. That's gonna give them, because what the coaches do is they then break it down by divisions. So, CHL, we range from like D2 to, when it comes to baseball, D4. So, it's kind of weird with our conference because the difference in the sizings of schools, because those of you that don't realize it, OSHA divisions is based off of enrollment. They do that, and they do competitive balance where they take a look at, like a Wyoming who returned a lot of their state run team was going to get looked at a little bit different than, a Deer Park who I think we had 6 or 7 seniors last year, if not more, kind of a thing. So, JC, where do you think, let's do women's soccer because you did touch on men's soccer. Normally, women's soccer here in the past couple of years, it's been, CNE, Williamsburg. Where I can't tell you the last time we hosted a women's soccer game. It was probably Torrey and Bailey's senior season, so back in 2018. So where do you think we will see our women's soccer team come postseason?
I wish I saw like an easy road, but I don't. And this is, of course, no disrespect. It's just based off how the season went. Some of the wins probably wouldn't be considered like really quality wins. And we played some really good teams close, so that could even out. So I believe there's 18 teams?
I think
I know there's way more for state, but I think for your section, I think there's only like 18.
It's like 16 or 18 for
I see
our.
probably a 12 to 14 range. And again, it's always weird because coaches, the higher seeds get to pick everything, or technically the lower seeds, they're the lower numbers. So you could get a 1, 2, or 3 seed call us out and be like, we want them. Or if the 1 seed is smart and they actually think it through, they take the bye and then they'll play like the winner of 13, 15. And so if we get into that kind of situation, we host that game, but it's like, well, you just hosted to go play the best team in the area.
That happens.
So yeah, I kind of see a 12 to 14 range, and just to get more about the boys, I kind of see more like an 8 to 10 for the boys, which you could get anything at the 8 to 10. We could get a bye at an 8 to 10, because I mean it's different in all around. I've never really kept up. We don't have to worry about Wyoming for either sport. We don't have to worry about Indian Hill. I believe Taylor's in Division 2 as well.
Correct. They're
So
kind
the
of that
only-
in between, like 2 and 3. So it depends on, because OSHA will even break it down to, because like for our track, our girls go Division 2, but our boys are Division 3. And I think it's actually, I saw that it's flipping for this upcoming spring, but they'll break it down by the enrollment of boys and girls in that school. So Taylor's one of those where they're kind of all over the place ever since they did open enrollment. But yeah, for the CHL, for a lot of these sports, we don't see half of our teams.
Yeah,
Even
which is why we run into the CNEs, the Williamsburgs, the Seven Hills, the Summit Country Day. Because my senior year, we were on a collision course with them, but Mary not BS. So I see about, like I said, 12 to 14 seed for the girls, and then 8 to 10 for the boys. If the boys perform well tomorrow and then finish off their season, I don't know who it is, but if they finish well, I do see 8 as the ceiling and maybe a first round bye.
I think that matchup against Finneytown for boys will be huge. because we actually played Finneytown last year in the tournament, and it's always a close game. It's always chippy. So I think because Finneytown boys soccer is typically on kind of the higher end. It's one of their better sports coming in.
Always has been.
You know, for volleyball, it's kind of interesting because no matter what, like I said, we will not host. We will go to a neutral site. And it's weird because you've got like a greater showing of games, whereas, you know, football, it's only, 10 weeks. Soccer, it's only a total of, I think we go anywhere from 14 to 16 game, whereas volleyball, it's 20-something games. So I think that Northwest game will help them out in the seeding, but either way, you know, it's going to be tough. My senior year, we played, I forget who it was, but they were defending state champs. So.
Wyoming.
No.
Madeira.
I can't remember. I mean, my senior year was 10 years ago. So.
I mean, a lot of the good teams that were good when we were in high school, right? At least for volleyball, are still usually powerhouses.
You know, for volleyball for Cincinnati, it's, you know, Roger Bacon, which is Shane's alma mater.
Roger Bacon.
You know, tends to make a run. MND tends to make a run. You know, Wyoming, you know, though I think last year, the year before, they went all the way to districts and lost out in regional. You know, with Wyoming, it depends on, with any of their sports, it depends on how they schedule their out of conference. You know, I've noticed like their men's soccer has been facing really, really quality out of conference. You know, they face like Alter, and I think they were trying to get Moeller, that kind of a thing. So
Yeah, that might have been a bit off more than you can chew. Moeller is really, really good.
They're good at everything.
So, you know, where volleyball and soccer, no matter what, you get into the postseason. There's normally a Sunday tournament draw. Football, you have to earn your way in. So it's the top 16 teams. Like I said, we are currently obviously it's not taken into consideration Marymount. We were number 13. So I'm guessing we're going to jump to like 10 or 11, kind of a range. But the past couple of years, we've ran into a Mechanicsburg, a Coldwater game. So Shane, what do you think postseason-wise for our Wildcats?
I mean, I think it kind of depends on how, I mean, obviously it depends on how the next 3 weeks go. I think if you can win 2 out of the 3, I could see us, because that would put us at 5-5.
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably somewhere maybe around 9 or 10, maybe if we can run the table, that would be 6-4. That would probably get us a home game.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's kind of like last year. As long as you can avoid getting like a Mechanicsburg or a Coldwater in the first round, I think they'll be all right, because this team is a lot better than 3-4. I mean, you take those first 2 games, you take away a couple holding penalties, we're probably talking about this team being 5-2 right now, and we would be a much higher seed in the playoff rankings right now. But I mean, obviously you can't go back in time. How great would that be? But I mean, I think if we can win 2 out of 3, I see us probably being about a mid seed, somewhere like a 9 or a 10.
And for those of you that this might be your first season, you know, watching Deer Park, last year we ran into Cincinnati Country Day. It was an away game. You know, we did a big like whiteout game, and it was an upset. It was one of those where if you saw the matchup on paper, you know, we were the lower seed, we were supposed to lose. But if you actually dove into, you know, the conference schedules, because that's where it gets a little iffy. You know, boys soccer is sitting at 6 and 8, but you look at the CHL compared to like a CMAC, and you look at the quality of teams different in those, and that's what happened. it was kind of funny because the Enquirer actually posted matchups, and they went ahead and already put Cincinnati Country Day
Yep.
instead of Deer Park, and unfortunately we ran into Coldwater,
Yeah.
which we have faced 2 of the last 3 times we've made the playoffs.
They're good every year.
And, I went up there for that game, and that school is built to produce, one, they don't have boys soccer. So schools that, kind of focus on, it's like a Seven Hills, where they don't have football, so their boys soccer team is really, really solid. Coldwater doesn't have boys soccer. So that means a lot of their athletes have been conditioned just to play football. Whereas, imagine like a Robbie Fisher playing football instead of soccer. Imagine, say we didn't have football and you put, a Kendall Luckett on the soccer field kind of a thing. Or do they focus on, say, a sport like basketball at that point kind of a thing. So the last bit that is coming up is, I haven't seen the dates yet. I know volleyball is coming up, but soon we're going to be seeing the coaches' meetings to vote on the all league. So typically we see volleyball and boys soccer on the same weekend. Deer Park actually will host all of the volleyball coaches for that meeting. We host like a junior high tournament, and the coaches, it's kind of cool because they get to see kind of what's coming kind of a thing. So those meetings are coming up. And, well, it's second to last thing we're going to talk about. JC's going to be put on the spot here in a second. But
I'm prepping, as you can tell. I know you're about to ask me something.
But, we typically fall as someone who does the CHL release. I'm typically, that is 5 hours to get all that done for the fall, because we typically have a decent number. Last year we had the Defensive Player of the Year for football with Nori and all of that. So, and I'll start with volleyball, kind of think how many Wildcats we're going to see on those lists. For volleyball, you look at Reagan Osborne, you look at Abby Pettyjohn, you look at maybe an Ariana Johnson. Ariana, unfortunately, hasn't performed well against like a Wyoming and like Indian Hill. Maybe a Grace Louden. But for those of you, I say this a lot, for those of you that don't realize, coaches have to put up who they think earn it. And unfortunately for volleyball, the standard of all league has always been a little bit different, because I coach volleyball and softball. It's always been a little bit different. It's always, okay, if you were at Wyoming, how, would you see the court? Would you even make the team kind of a thing? And it sucks. We only get, a couple for volleyball each year because of that standard. Last year we had Cabria Thurman Hill get first team all CHL, and that was our first one since Jamie Burling in 2012. So, we tend to do more with the honorable mention range for volleyball. So I think we're going to have 2 or 3 Wildcats in that list. JC, for men's soccer, let's start with men's. How many do you think and whatnot?
Well, you're leaving everybody hanging. Who do you think the 3 people will be?
I said it. Abby Pettyjohn, Reagan Osborne, maybe Ariana Johnson.
I thought you were just naming names to name names there. Then you're like, I think we get 3. JC, how many do we get? Okay. For men's?
Yes.
I think a total range for all league will probably, see, again, it depends. Because, I think I was, on my teams, I was one of the better defenders we had. Mm-hmm. I never got all league.
Yeah, neither did I.
And so it's kind of hard for somebody making plays on defense to get that recognition. But I got 2 of our defenders getting all league with Robbie and Colin. They both have scored goals as well. You're not going to put me on the spot to say where at on the
No, no.
Okay, that would have been hard. And it'll be hard to keep Anthony Stewart off all league with his save number alone. Usually Deer Park goalies get it.
Yeah.
Usually.
And the thing with...
So the goal, I think Stewart, I think Schneemann, I think Fisher, and I think Johnny and Addie will get it as well.
So the thing to take into consideration is, so the all-league numbers about how many spots are available on each team is based off of how many are on the field. So for soccer and football, there's a total of 33 all-league. And that's not including the player of the year that normally will also be first team. You know, volleyball, you're looking at 6 times 3, so 18 total. And, you know, where potentially for Stewart, he's going to get compared to the rest of the goalies in the CHL. Typically, you see one goalie, and that's where sometimes it's a little bit difficult. So I'll give JC a little bit of a break. So Shane for football. You know, football, it's, you know, you look at linemen, you know, even as someone who does just the social media side, you know, it's hard to feature a lineman. Mm-hmm. So you look at the all league for those compared to, you know, obviously Kendall Luckett, who's a returning first team all CHL. And, you know, Jace was honorable mention all CHL last year. So Shane, where do you think, you know, our guys, you know, come, that list probably will be closer to Thanksgiving. You know, when that comes out, pretty much how many graphics do you think I will be making for our football guys?
I mean, I think you're going to be making a few. I mean, I would go out on a limb and say Kendall's probably a lock for one of them.
First team, I'll say.
Yeah.
He's locked.
Yeah, Kendall's.
If it wasn't for Hester, he could be.
Yeah, if it wasn't for
offensive player of the year candidate.
Yeah, Kendall's been lights out all year. BA's had a good year. I think he's got a shot. I mean, strictly from a stats standpoint, I think Jace is doing a nice job. I mean, passing the ball, they don't throw much, but he hasn't thrown any interceptions, so he's got a 4.0 touchdown to interception ratio, which I mean, you may look at that and say, oh, Deer Park doesn't throw, but it's like, yeah, but he's making good decisions with the ball. I mean, Jay Sean's starting to heat up a little bit, so I think he's got a shot. Defensively, I think we've got a couple guys that could get it. I think Cam Gilreath, I think he's got a very good shot at getting some. He's been a force of nature on defense. Aiden Mosley's been real tough playing defensive end this year. I think he's got a shot. I mean, obviously BA, both sides of the ball, he's done a great job this year.
And then another BA, probably Brody Armour.
Yeah, Brody Armour, he's done a heck of a job. I mean, he's really come into his own, especially he's got a couple touchdowns receiving, and in special teams, he's been a factor.
Yeah.
So I think you could look at that, and Brody's got a chance. I mean, I would say we got a good 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 guys.
Yeah, I can see that. You know, I've only missed one game, well, 2, because one game I don't really remember. But, you know, I definitely think we're all on the right track. You know, be on the lookout for our CHL release. It's going to be quite a decent amount now. Going past the CHL into the all-district, that's where we tend to only have, you know, 1 or 2 soccer. I mean, maybe Jamie Burling was the last one for volleyball. We typically have more on the football side, but we won't get into that. We'll wait until we see the all CHL list, because it's very hard to be all district and not be all conference. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask JC one question that's going to end out.
I got to do girls soccer.
Girls soccer all league. Sorry.
I was like, wait a minute.
We're forgetting the ladies.
I was like,
sorry.
This is why
I was thinking
we
ahead.
always do ladies first, people. I think probably about that same number of girls get it. I mean, Hegland gotta get first team, in my opinion. Watson gotta be first team. I will say this until my face turns red. If Sarah Hyab is not on all league, I might write a strongly worded letter to whoever makes these votings. It's on the film. When you're there in person, you can tell she's everywhere. And so for me, she's first team as well. And then after her, I think we might get a couple honorable mentions. I think Kylie's been nursing an injury.
Yeah.
So she's been in and out. I would like to see her on All League still.
Kylie's been snubbed her entire career in
and then-
everything.
Been there.
And then I think Rachel Walker might get an honorable mention nod for being I've been a freshman trying to navigate this schedule. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And I was a sub when I was a freshman. I was not a starter. So I can only imagine being a freshman starter in this league.
What's interesting with Sarah Hyob is you see her on the soccer field. She's one of those, she can get physical on the soccer field. We've seen it. You have to be a center back. And then, like, last night I'm on the sideline and you see her as a cheerleader. That's the cool thing about Deer Park. We said the same thing about JJ Fisher. She had a big dance background. So, that's one thing I really like about Deer Park is how you don't have to fit one kind of bubble type thing. So it's always interesting when we have this very physical, typically soccer player, or they're physical on the basketball court or whatever, and then you see them go and perform at Parker's or they're on the sideline for cheerleading. I remember when Coach Troxel told me that Sarah Hyob was joining cheer last year, I was just like, what?
Yeah, she's got the it factor. Anybody that's listened to a stream, I actually hope she's heard it or like her family's heard it.
I'm sure
I
have.
really enjoy watching her play. She does it all. She's fast. She's strong. There's no fear. And
Yeah.
so Brad, I might have to talk to you personally to really push that girl first team because I've seen, of course, a lot of the Wyoming girls are gonna get so yeah, I got 3 first teamers for girls soccer in my opinion. We'll see. I will think they are guaranteed all league spots.
It's just where
I'm just pushing them first team right now.
Yeah, it's weird with Hyob because we've known them for so long because Sarah's dad and our mom went to high school together, and then Joey coached Jamie in softball a little bit. So, Deer Park is definitely going to miss that family next year. So, as I was alluding to before, I'm going to ask JC one question. I think he knows what's coming. Do we see Lauren Hagelin break Tori Mackey's goal scoring record, and or do we see her tying or breaking both Kenzie Sheeman and Tori Mackey's points record?
Let's see. I think she's 3 goals from tying? No, 3 goals from breaking.
2 from tying.
And then I think an extra 2 points from getting the points.
Yeah, it's 2 points for a goal and 1 point for an assist.
But I think points wise, she was only 10 off.
Yeah,
And so I think she's 8 off right now.
yeah.
Goal. I think she breaks both.
Okay.
Breaks them.
Now,
That could be based off the strength of schedule right now. I don't know a lot about Norwood, but I think I actually think she might get a hat trick against Norwood and then take care of it then. And then she'll just sweep up the points the next week against Finneytown.
and luckily for her, even if something were to happen, you've got the postseason. Postseason stats.
I don't. She'll get it in the next 2 games.
So that'll be something on the lookout. With that, we are going to end episode 3. It's going to be a little bit over an hour. Join us on Tuesday for our volleyball broadcast, and then girls soccer on Wednesday, and then our random football, whatever that's going to look like, on Friday. Thank you, and have a great day.